Did you know that your skeleton silently weakens long before you ever feel a single symptom? Most people don't realize they're losing bone density until something breaks. Literally. By the time a fracture happens, it's often a sign that bone loss has already been happening for years beneath the surface. In fact, according to the International Osteoporosis Foundation, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men over the age of 50 will suffer an osteoporotic fracture. That's not a small number. What's even more alarming is that many of the factors that damage our bones don't come from dramatic accidents or rare conditions. They're sitting quietly on our plates, being consumed every day without a second thought. You might be drinking that iced coffee, munching on cereal, or enjoying a quick soda without realizing that some of the very things we love most are silently sabotaging our bone health. Bone loss isn't just about osteoporosis either. It's closely tied to joint issues, postural problems, chronic pain, and even long-term disability, especially as we age. What makes it worse is that bone loss is often symptomless until it's too late, which makes prevention, not treatment, our strongest weapon. And that starts with one simple but often overlooked area: food. Let's explore the top 7 everyday foods that can slowly destroy your bones, and you're probably eating at least a few of them daily. Let's start with something most people wouldn't suspect. Soft drinks, especially colas. That fizzy, but beneath the bubbles lies a hidden cost to your health. Most colas contain phosphoric acid, a compound added to give that sharp, tangy flavor. While phosphate, the form it takes in your bloodstream, is necessary for many body functions, problems start when there's too much of it. The ideal calcium to phosphorus ratio in the body is about 1:1, but when you regularly consume colas, that balance is disrupted. Elevated phosphate levels push your body into a calcium deficit, and to make up for it, calcium is pulled directly from your bones. And this isn't just a theory. A large-scale observational study that looked at more than 2,500 participants found that women who drank cola daily had nearly 4% lower bone mineral density in their hips compared to those who rarely or never consumed it. That 4% might not sound like a lot at first, but in bone health, even small changes make a big impact. A slight dip in bone density significantly raises the risk of fractures, especially in postmenopausal women and older adults. Do you know that the acid load from phosphoric acid in cola leads to a net loss of bone mineral content by increasing the acidity of the bloodstream, prompting calcium to be pulled from bones as a buffer? The problem isn't just the phosphate. It's also what colas are replacing in the diet. Instead of reaching for a glass of milk, a calcium-fortified plant-based drink, or a bone-friendly smoothie, many people turn to soda. And this displacement matters. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that adolescent girls who consumed more soda had significantly lower intakes of calcium, a double hit to bone health. More phosphorus, less calcium. Even worse, most sodas contain caffeine, which further increases calcium loss through urine. So you're not just sipping a drink. You're sipping away your skeletal strength, one can at a time. Next time you crave something fizzy, try sparkling water with lemon or a calcium-rich smoothie. Your bones will thank you, and they'll support you better for years to come. Next up is something that hides in nearly all processed foods: excess sodium. Sodium might be essential for your body. It helps regulate fluid balance, supports nerve signals, and keeps your muscles contracting properly. But here's the hidden problem. Most people today are getting double or even triple the amount they actually need, and their bones are quietly paying the price. The recommended daily intake of sodium is around 1,500 to 2,300 milligrams. Yet many people are unknowingly consuming 3,500 to 4,000 milligrams or more. And it's not coming from the salt shaker alone. Here's where it gets tricky. When your body flushes out excess sodium through the kidneys, calcium often leaves with it. So every time you go overboard with salt, you're not just risking high blood pressure. You're losing bone-building calcium through your urine. According to a study, every 2,300 milligrams of sodium, roughly 1 teaspoon of table salt, can lead to the loss of about 40 milligrams of calcium. Now imagine that happening daily, especially in someone who's not meeting their calcium needs through food. It's like a silent leak, small but constant, and over the years, it can contribute to weakened bones, lower bone density, and a higher risk of fractures, especially as you age. In fact, countries with high sodium consumption tend to have higher rates of osteoporotic hip fractures, showing a global dietary impact on bone health. Where's all that salt hiding? Not just in chips and pretzels. Think frozen dinners, canned soups, fast food burgers, deli meats, sauces, and salad dressings. Even so-called healthy options like flavored rice, breakfast cereals, and bread can be packed with sodium. It's sneaky, but the good news? You can make flavorful meals without putting your skeleton at risk. Swap the salt for herbs like rosemary or thyme, fresh garlic or lemon juice, and spices like turmeric or paprika. These not only boost flavor, but also come with anti-inflammatory benefits, too. Now let's talk about caffeine. Yes, that cup of coffee you can't start your day without. Caffeine is one of those daily habits that feels almost sacred. Your morning coffee, your midday pick-me-up, that little square of dark chocolate after dinner. But when it comes to bone health, there's a fine line between a helpful boost and a harmful habit. The real concern kicks in when caffeine intake goes overboard above 400 milligrams per day, which is roughly the amount in 4 standard cups of coffee. But it's easy to go beyond that without realizing it. Caffeine hides in energy drinks, some teas, sodas, chocolate, and even pre-workout supplements. You might think you're safe because you only had 2 cups of coffee, but that energy drink you grabbed in the afternoon may have added another 200 milligrams without blinking. So, how does caffeine harm your bones? First, it inhibits calcium absorption in the intestines, making it harder for your body to pull this essential mineral from your food. Second, caffeine can increase urinary calcium excretion, meaning whatever calcium does get absorbed might be flushed out before it can do any good. It's a double hit. A long-term study focusing on older women found that those who consumed more than 300 milligrams of caffeine daily had noticeably lower bone mineral density, particularly in those whose calcium intake was already low. In older adults, this can significantly increase the risk of fractures, especially in the spine and hips. In short, caffeine disrupts vitamin D receptor activity, making calcium transport into bones less efficient even when vitamin D levels are adequate. In fact, teenagers who consume caffeine and energy drinks tend to have lower peak bone mass, setting them up for earlier bone degeneration. But before you panic and toss your favorite mug, don't worry. You don't have to quit caffeine entirely. The key is moderation and smart pairing. Try having your coffee with a calcium-rich snack like a handful of almonds, a bowl of Greek yogurt, or a fortified oat milk latte. That way, you help offset the impact caffeine has on calcium balance. Moving on to sugar, and we're not just talking about candy. Let's start with the fact that the high sugar intake reduces gut microbial diversity, impairing nutrient absorption including bone essential minerals like calcium and zinc. Refined sugar might taste sweet, but its impact on your bones is anything but. Found in everything from breakfast cereals and granola bars to pastries, sauces, and even those trendy healthy smoothies, sugar is a master of disguise, and it's doing silent damage to your skeletal system every day. When consumed in excess, refined sugar triggers chronic, low-grade inflammation throughout the body. That inflammation ramps up cortisol, a stress hormone that, in high levels, actually starts to break down bone tissue. Think of cortisol like a silent thief, weakening your bones bit by bit while you go about your day. But it doesn't stop there. Sugar competes with essential minerals like calcium and magnesium in your digestive tract. That means when sugar intake is high, your body has a harder time absorbing the very minerals it needs to keep your bones dense and strong. And since sugary diets are often low in whole, nutrient-dense foods like leafy greens, dairy, nuts, seeds, and oily fish, your bones are not only being robbed, they're also being starved. One observational study focusing on adolescents, a group in their peak bone-building years, found that those who consumed high amounts of sugar-sweetened beverages like soda had significantly lower bone mass than those who drank water or milk. That's a big deal because the bone mass you build early in life is your reserve for later years. But it's not all bad news. There are simple swaps that can make a difference. Use natural sweeteners like raw honey, dates, or mashed banana in moderation. And focus on anti-inflammatory, bone-supporting nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids from flax seeds, walnuts, or fatty fish, and vitamin K2 found in fermented foods and some cheeses, which help guide calcium into your bones where it belongs. Let's talk about alcohol. While an occasional glass of wine with dinner might actually offer a few cardiovascular perks, chronic or heavy alcohol consumption is one of the most serious, yet often overlooked, threats to your bone health. It's not just about getting tipsy or feeling a hangover the next day. Alcohol directly interferes with the very structure of your bones at a cellular level. Inside your bones, two key types of cells are constantly at work: osteoblasts, which build new bone tissue, and osteoclasts, which break old bone down. Normally, these two stay in a balanced rhythm: out with the old, in with the new. But alcohol disrupts this harmony. It suppresses osteoblast activity, meaning less new bone is made, while simultaneously stimulating osteoclasts, which causes more bone to be broken down. The result? A net loss of bone density that slightly increases over time. And it gets worse. Alcohol also impairs the absorption of vital nutrients like vitamin D, calcium, and magnesium, three of the most critical players in bone metabolism. Without these nutrients, your body can't properly build or maintain strong bones, no matter how much you exercise or how healthy the rest of your diet may be. A long-term study that followed both men and women over more than a decade found that individuals who consistently consumed more than 2 alcoholic drinks per day had significantly lower bone mineral density and a much higher risk of fractures, especially hip fractures in older adults. If you enjoy the occasional drink, you don't have to give it up completely. Just stick to moderate consumption. No more than 1 drink per day for women and 2 for men. And here's a tip to reduce the damage: always drink alcohol with food. Ideally meals that are rich in calcium and magnesium, like leafy greens, tofu, almonds, or cheese. This helps buffer the impact alcohol has on mineral absorption and supports bone health in the long run. Now, let's not forget about the seemingly harmless white bread, white rice, and other refined carbs. Refined grains might look harmless: white bread, white rice, crackers, or that bowl of instant noodles, but they're quietly undermining your bone's strength from the inside out. When grains go through refining, their bran and germ, the parts packed with minerals like magnesium, phosphorus, and B vitamins, are completely stripped away. What remains is mostly starch, a high glycemic carbohydrate that causes blood sugar to spike quickly and crash soon after. Now here's where the real damage begins. These rapid spikes and drops in blood sugar don't just mess with your energy levels, they contribute to insulin resistance, a condition that fosters chronic inflammation throughout the body. And inflammation, as countless studies have shown, is a major culprit behind the gradual breakdown of bone tissue. But it gets even more serious. High blood sugar over time leads to the formation of advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These compounds bind to the collagen in your bones, making them more rigid, brittle, and prone to fractures. In other words, AGEs age your bones literally. In short, refined carbohydrates trigger a post-meal inflammatory spike, which increases bone turnover and reduces bone strength over time. Do you know that the diets heavy in white flour and processed grains often show higher urinary calcium excretion, contributing to long-term bone loss? The scary part? You won't feel this damage happening. There's no warning sign until your bone density starts dropping or something breaks. And since refined grains are a staple in many people's diets, found in pasta, cookies, pastries, cereals, and more, it's easy to consume them multiple times a day without a second thought. But there's good news. You can easily switch to whole grain alternatives that not only stabilize blood sugar, but also feed your bones. Think quinoa, brown rice, steel-cut oats, buckwheat, and millet. These grains still have their mineral-rich parts intact and are naturally high in magnesium, phosphorus, and fiber, which help your body with calcium absorption and support bone regeneration at the cellular level. And finally, let's look at vegetable oils. Vegetable oils might seem harmless after all. They're in almost everything from salad dressings to packaged snacks to so-called heart-healthy margarines. But when it comes to your bones, highly processed oils like soybean oil, corn oil, and sunflower oil are doing more harm than you might think. These oils are loaded with omega-6 fatty acids. And while omega-6 is essential in small amounts, the issue lies in the imbalance between omega-6 and omega-3 in the modern diet. Historically, humans consumed omega-6 and omega-3 fats in a balanced ratio of about 2 to 1 or 4 to 1. But today, thanks to the widespread use of processed vegetable oils, that ratio has skyrocketed to around 15 to 1, sometimes even higher. Why does this matter for your bones? Because excessive omega-6 promotes chronic inflammation, which directly affects bone metabolism. Inflammation doesn't just cause joint pain or gut issues, it also interferes with osteoblasts, the cells responsible for building bone, and accelerates osteoclast activity, the cells that break it down. This imbalance leads to a steady erosion of bone mass over time. In fact, studies have found that high dietary intake of omega-6 is strongly associated with increased markers of bone resorption, especially in postmenopausal women who are already at greater risk for osteoporosis due to declining estrogen levels. That means a diet rich in these oils can quietly speed up bone loss when the body is already vulnerable. The fix? The simpler than you think. Replace those inflammatory oils with ones that actually support bone health, like extra virgin olive oil and avocado oil. Both have anti-inflammatory properties, and olive oil, in particular, has been shown to enhance calcium absorption and even support bone mineralization. Cooking with these oils, adding them to salads, or using them as dips isn't just tasty, it's a powerful way to protect your bones. Now, you might be wondering, can cutting these foods really make a difference? Absolutely. Bone is living tissue. It constantly breaks down and rebuilds in a process called remodeling. And while we can't change our age or genetics, we can change what we feed our bones every single day. Think of food as your daily dose of medicine or your daily dose of damage. Start by reducing or replacing one of these 7 bone-destroying items at a time. For example, switch soda for a calcium-fortified herbal tea. Choose whole grain bread over white. Add a tablespoon of chia seeds to your breakfast to balance out omega-6 excess. Small shifts make powerful long-term changes. These changes are especially crucial for individuals at higher risk of bone issues, such as postmenopausal women, elderly individuals, people with a family history of osteoporosis, smokers, and those with autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis. Athletes who train intensely without proper nutritional support may also face accelerated bone turnover. Similarly, people on restrictive diets, whether keto, vegan, or otherwise, need to be particularly careful about nutrient gaps that could affect bone integrity. But caution is also needed. For instance, reducing salt too much can lead to electrolyte imbalances, especially for people on diuretics or blood pressure medications. People with low blood pressure or certain adrenal disorders should monitor sodium intake with guidance. Similarly, individuals with specific digestive issues like IBD or celiac disease may need tailored advice, as their absorption of calcium and vitamin D may already be compromised. Moderation is key, and individualized approaches work best. So here's your challenge. Look at your daily meals and ask yourself, am I feeding my bones or depleting them? Pick just one of these foods to cut back and replace it with something that supports your bones instead. Notice how you feel. Track your energy, your digestion, even your sleep. Because bone health isn't just about avoiding fractures in old age. It's deeply tied to your strength, stability, and vitality at every stage of life. Your bones are your body's foundation. Treat them with the care they deserve. Try this for a week. Cut back on soda, add leafy greens, toss out the refined snacks, and let us know in the comments how it goes. We'd love to hear from you. Your bones may not speak loudly now, but trust me, they will thank you later.